All right, we are live. Okay, guys, welcome to the Superlative Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Bushi. Every episode, one guest, a founder, investor, operator, or someone who's built or competed at a level most people only read about. The conversation covers their journey, what they discovered along the way, and what most people never get to hear and where they think their field is going. No edits, no post production, just one sharp conversation live. And let's get into it. So, my guest today is Sunny Ray. He's left a career selling robots around the world to fly to Bangalore, walk into a Bitcoin meetup, and co-found what became India's most first and most trusted crypto exchange with 2.5 million users and no blueprint uh, for how to do it in a country that almost banned it entirely, right? But before we get into your story, two sentences. What is Unocoin and what is RaasRocket, the new endeavor that you are putting together with your co-founder? Before, and then we'll come back to it at the end.
Yeah, Unocoin is, like you said, India's first Bitcoin and crypto exchange. We started in December 2013. Yeah, and then RaasRocket stands for Raising as a Service. So we have a tech stack that we enable for founders looking to raise capital that essentially puts their capital raising process on autopilot. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me to the show, Ed. I know we've known
Yeah,
each other for a long time.
yeah, we've known each other for a while, and you've been like a great mentor for a good part of my journey as we've known each other. Also, so happy to have you on the show. So the first section I'd like to want to get into is your backstory, right? You studied electrical engineering at University of Alberta and Toronto, and then spent years later doing financial services. Um, then it's not necessarily the obvious path to becoming a crypto pioneer, especially in India. What were you actually looking for during those years that those careers weren't giving you back then?
Um, I mean, I just remember like finishing engineering, and then my first job was I was working at a company that was the fastest growing company in Canada. Yet when I would look at how much I was earning after taxes and after paying your student loans and your I don't know your rent, your car loan, this and that, it just felt like there was more month than there was money. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Hmm.
uh, and it just had this feeling that I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had asthma, but like I always equate it to like asthma, where when you have oxygen, you're fine, but when you can't breathe, or when you have an attack, you feel like you can't breathe. And money's kind of the same way, where when you've got it, it's all good, but when you don't, it's like you just like you feel like you're drowning almost. And so that kind of drove me down this path of like wanting to understand money, and I quickly understood that just because I did engineering and I knew a little bit of math, that money was like an entirely different beast in itself. So while I had these like engineering jobs in my evenings and weekends, I went and pursued um, what I thought would answer that question, which was a career in financial services. I got all my licenses. I started my own brokerage. I started helping families with financial advice. But, to my surprise, after doing that for a few years, I felt more lost than I did at the beginning of that journey. I felt like there's a lot of obfuscation and almost like purposeful, things just didn't add up. And so I left financial services then and decided that I would just, not pursue it at the time. And I went into robotics for almost 8 years and sold robots. And it was only until I discovered Bitcoin in 2012 did
Mm.
like all my answers for what is money start to get actual answers. And yeah, and I just fell in love with the idea and just felt like, wow, like this thing that everybody's like going to school for their third of their lives and waking up in the morning and getting into divorces and having wars over this thing. It's like you ask most people, like, what is it? And most people can't give you a definition. They can't define what money is, or they can't tell you the history of money. So to me, that just felt like off. It just felt like, how could it be that there's this thing that everybody wants, yet almost nobody understands? And so that's what like really drove my interest in Bitcoin, and yeah, and kind of got me going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. You know, that's really powerful that it led up to your journey into discovering Bitcoin in 2012. You know, most people who heard about it that early either ignored it or chased it immediately, right? You spent some months looking into it. What was the thing that finally made you take action?
Well, I mean, like, I think pattern recognition is a strong thing, right? And having done my electrical engineering degree, and having, being lucky enough to have a computer at a young age, because my dad bought us one when we were like 10 or something. I saw how powerful computers were and how much of a paradigm shift they were. I saw the internet, how it just kind of came and it just took over everything. And then the iPhone moment, right? And Blackberries, right? If you're from Canada or anywhere for that matter. And then, so I kept seeing all these things that would emerge and like become almost ubiquitous in 5-10 years. And so I felt like I just kept missing everything that I could have perhaps like capitalized on or built a business around. And so I think a lot of that, frustration led me to always kind of be like, okay, well, keep an eye out. Next time something, your spidey senses start tingling, like it's probably time to pounce. And so, yeah, Bitcoin was unassuming. It seemed like maybe like a nothing burger. And I was just getting super into gold at the time. I was learning about, Dr. Ron Paul's work, and just like the monetary system, and, all the things we talk about in Bitcoin. But I went deep down that rabbit hole and just felt like, just felt super enamored by the idea, like just how clever it was and how it almost felt like everything had been thought of. Yeah, and to this day, 13 years in, Bitcoin still takes up a lot of my kind of imagination and my brain power. I just can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, that's really powerful that you have that a passion to really like stick with it. So like talking about Bitcoin, right? You flew to Bangalore for a
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin meetup, right? And then you
No,
ended up co-found. Oh no,
no.
yeah,
I
please correct
actually
me. Yes.
I moved. I moved to. So I used to be in the robotics industry, like I mentioned, and I moved to India on behalf of that company in 2011 or
Mm,
2012, and so in fact, it was the opposite. I felt like I was missing the Bitcoin meetups here in Toronto, the ones that Anthony Diorio, and I think where probably you and I met way back in the day. I was living in Bangalore, and I felt like, oh, this sucks. Like, I wish I could take part in, these like super cool meetups that were in my hometown, but I'm on the other side of the world. And having missed it, week after week, one day I thought, hey, why don't I just start up my own meetup or join a meetup,
ah,
looking it up? And yeah, that's kind of what got me going. But I was living in Bangalore at the time, and when I
gotcha.
kind of went down that rabbit hole.
No, that's really cool that there was no community there, and then you just like put it together. So and then that's where you ended up founding, or rather finding your co-founders there, right? At
Mhm.
Unocoin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It was initially just my wife and I. That was the community,
Yeah.
but then eventually we had others join. I remember we had a gentleman who was like a PhD in cryptography. He was working in Accenture, and super smart guy. And he was one of my first like teachers when it came to like Bitcoin, understanding how it really works. But yeah, but we were just determined. I kind of knew that I wanted to build something. I just didn't know what that something was, but I knew that if I was around people that were of like-mindedness, then there'd be a good chance that we could, pull something off. And so the meetups, we just said, okay, let's just do them every weekend. And we started doing them in a coffee shop. Eventually we outgrew the coffee shops because we had too many people. And then
Mm.
we upgraded to the Leela Palace. So that was a lot of fun, which is like a 6-star hotel in Bangalore. It's like super duper nice, like over the top. And we would just meet there, like 100 people or whatever every
That's
Saturday. And it
classy.
was, yeah. And our thinking was like, especially back then, Bitcoin had like, now people almost like equate it to like, BlackRock and strategy and nation states. But back then it was like, funny money or whatever. And so our
Mm.
thinking was, instead of doing it in someone's basement or someone's backyard, it's like, what if we did it at the nicest place, right? Where it's like super duper nice. That
Yeah.
would set kind of like a precedent, and people would come and they'd be like, okay, this is this is something. And so yeah, we just started doing it there, and then eventually it all grew. And December 2013, we called it the Global Bitcoin Conference. In fact, we even owned the domain globalbitcoinconference.com, and we did a large scale event in December 2013, which is where we also launched Unocoin.
Mm. So, you had just a little bit before Unocoin. You had, what gave you the conviction to be like, we should be building something for India? Was it the groups of people there? Like, what opportunity did you see over
Yeah,
there?
that's a good question. So the meetups, at the meetups, people started coming. Like I said, hundreds of people at a certain point. And we just have fun. We just talk about Bitcoin. I remember we decided one day that we would do a Bitcoin mining operation, and so we, put some Bitcoins together, and we
Mm.
sent somebody to New York to grab us a couple of Avalons, and that project didn't succeed and it failed, but we just kept trying things, right? We're like, hey, let's do a conference. It's like, okay, let's try that. Let's try this. Let's try that. And we just kept trying things. But there was one kind of like common theme, which is that people would come to our meetups and be like, can I buy some Bitcoin?
Mm.
And so we didn't know where to send them, right? And at first you'd probably just be like, oh, there's this place called Mount Gox, but even that, it was very difficult to get your money to Bitstamp or Mount Gox. There was
Yeah, I remember that.
maybe one company in India. It wasn't like a brokerage or an exchange. It was like a really simple website called Buy Sell Bitcoin, which was being run by a friend of mine named Mahin. And but it wasn't like, a site that you'd feel comfortable sending a lot of people to, because it was super, super like, it literally had stickmen, like pictures of stickmen on the front. Like that's what it was.
Sounds like it's worse than Craigslist.
Oh, dude, it was like a one pager. I mean, it was glorious because it worked.
Yeah.
But like I was desperate. I would do anything to buy some Bitcoin. But for the average person, they would get pretty turned off by it. So that was the insight. So we just said, hey, one day we're like, doesn't it make sense for us to launch like a brokerage? In fact, it was in a conversation with David Johnston. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the guy that was behind MasterCoin. More recently, he's the brains behind, not the brains, but I would say like one of the leaders or whatever behind Morpheus. And he coined the term DApps, I think was him. Anyway,
Oh,
so
I thought it was Vitalik and his group, but no, Daps is a much older. That's so cool.
I think I mean Vitalik is obviously a part of it, but if you recall, I mean you were here back in the day as well. I mean Vitalik had like before he started Ethereum, he kind of like made the rounds, right? Like he has this like
Mm.
famous thing where he went around the world and he was with Amir Taki and
Yeah.
Mastercoin. Again, I might be wrong here, but from my understanding, was like kind of like a step towards that Ethereum vision. It was like a Swiss Army knife of applications on Bitcoin. So still super clunky, but you could tell that it was kind of in that direction. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Vitalik, spent time with David Johnson back in the day. David obviously, was a big
Mm.
Ethereum fan. He loves Ethereum, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, Morpheus is built on top of Ethereum. So yeah, he's so in a conversation with David one day, he just asked me, he's like, Sunny, is there anything like Coinbase in India? And I couldn't answer that question. And I was like, oh, well, that's probably a pretty good idea then.
And that's where the journey really started. So before we get to the next part, right? Like
Mhm.
just one final question. Like, what does the version of Sunny from 2011, right? 2012, reading about Bitcoin, uh, before the meetups, before Unocoin, not understand, but now that you understand now. You mentioned how money works and that how that colored your understanding of the world. Was there anything else?
Mm. So what's the question? So what's the difference, or like how? What's my what? Yeah, maybe just ask it one more time. So I'm trying to get my
Um,
head around it.
like past Sunny versus what current Sunny knows now, right? Besides
Right.
just knowing how money works and Bitcoin stuff, was there other things that you now know that your past self didn't?
I mean, this insight is probably not from like 2012, but I would say the biggest insight that I've had like in the last, I don't know, 3 to 4 years, has been, how do I even say it? Like in
Mm.
short, um, hmm, just trying to think how to say it. Like, and I don't even think it really like it doesn't pertain to the Bitcoin story and all that. So I almost hesitate to even share it. But
If it's an
I would
operator story, but yeah,
an
if it
operator
fits.
story. I mean, all maybe what I'll say is that yeah, like obviously running a business is incredibly difficult and challenging, and it takes everything, right? It takes everything out of you, and so you need to be very, very, very committed. There's obviously the whole world is against you, right? Like it could be your family, it could be at points even, um, yeah, it could be the government, it could be your customers, it could be investors, it could be hackers. I mean, there's always people that are trying to like, that maybe don't see your same vision, and so and then on top of that, you're doing things that no one's ever done before. So it's just like super, super hard and the old Sunny maybe didn't get how hard it was, because I think if most people knew how hard entrepreneurship was, they might shy away from it, because yeah, it's incredibly demanding, it's incredibly taxing, there is no end. There's no like, oh, okay, I'm done now,
It's
I'm
not
gonna
a
take a
clear
week off.
linear. Yeah.
There's no such thing as week off. There's no such thing as weekdays or weekends. You really, really, really have to be obsessed with wanting to solve a problem. I mean, I'm over exaggerating a little bit, obviously, but yeah, but I'd also wouldn't want to have it any other way. Like I
Mm.
took my 11-year-old out for dinner yesterday, and I was just, she's like, Daddy, what do you think? What do you think I'm going to be when I grow up, right? And I have found myself like really for the first time with her talking about like entrepreneurship and like how important it is, and how, if you have a job, it's like you get paid per every hour, and there's only so many hours, and so there's always this like glass ceiling. And
Mm.
so obviously if you want to not have a glass ceiling, entrepreneurship is the path, right? And so so even though despite it's like just, I don't know, what's that, the famous saying by Elon Musk? It's like chewing glass and staring into
Oh
the
yeah.
abyss. I can't find a better description. I mean, that is bang on. But at the same time, there's probably nothing more rewarding, right? More satisfying than knowing that you gave your day everything, and then when you do get wins, it's like it's all you, right? It's like it
Yeah.
happened because of you. There's no getting lost in the numbers, or getting lost in like a sea of, like 10,000 corporate members, and you don't really matter. Everything matters.
Yeah. Hey, we got a new guest in the show.
Oh my god, he's got no
Yeah.
pants on. No pants. You're gonna get banned. Well,
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, so talking about like when you started Unocoin, right? When you started operating the company alongside your co-founders, it was a very, very fresh new time, especially in India. There was no regulatory clarity on how to work things out, but you knew what problems needed to be solved. What did it feel like being, in that era when you're being India's exchange?
I mean, it felt great. It felt amazing. It was also scary, right? Like we had a very rough start, to say the least. I think within a week of us launching, we had 30 people from the tax department show up at our front door, even though we only had 4
Whoa.
employees. We had, maybe a couple weeks after that, the Reserve Bank issued a notice on their website, essentially telling all the businesses and the country at large that, oh, this Bitcoin thing is risky, there's volatility and this and that, and effectively shuttered the industry. And then we had to like fight back and reopen, and it's like a cat and mouse game until 2018, when we finally had to take the central bank to court, and we won in 2020. But yeah, I mean, now there's a bit more clarity, but it's been a long road for sure. I don't only have a
Wow.
few minutes left, but I do.
Yeah.
There is a couple things I want to mention. So there's two things that I would say get me really, really excited about, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin and India. One is that India is the largest gold market in the world. Indian women own more gold than the U.S. government, and so the fact that Bitcoin is digital gold, to me, is like this obvious kind of marriage between India and Bitcoin. And the second, which I think is even more relevant to the stuff you're working on, is remittance. India is the largest inward remitter in the world, and more money moves from all over the world to India than any other country. And so, actually, I might be off on that stat by one. Maybe Mexico, US probably is a bit bigger than India, but India, US, India, and Dubai, India are maybe numbers 2 and 3 in terms of corridors. And so, I grew up watching my dad send money back home every month to his mother, and remittance is something that's like near and dear to my heart. And so I always think back to, like Bitcoin. Like before Bitcoin, you could not zap value across the world like instantaneously, right? And now with
Nope,
Lightning,
you couldn't.
so with crypto now, stable coins, that also becomes more, possible, easy to do. And so, yeah, so if I've had to sum it up, I would say obviously the preservation of like wealth and being able to fight inflation, with digital gold. I think that is, to me, like massive, massive, massive. And then the other like ginormous opportunity in the space is this like obvious like remittance. Like, why do we use Swift in a world where crypto exists? And so yes, I don't know if you probably haven't told the world about a lot of what you guys are building, but I know you're working on something that is along those
Well,
lines. And
yeah, I'm putting it on the record here. Like, would love to like get on your podcast and demo a few things
oh yeah,
when the time comes. Yeah,
I'm down, dude. Whenever you're ready, I'm here for you.
yeah. Thanks. So, yeah, like just two questions then, just to like close things off. Second last one is what's the next 6 months look like? What are you aiming for between 6 and 12 months from now to make RaasRocket and what you're building at Unocoin a success? What are you looking forward to?
At Unocoin remittance, I'm super, super excited. We have a whole bunch of companies that are partnering with us, and some have already gone live, some are going live, and I see this as like the next big chapter for Unocoin, is being the rails for money movement. And then with RaasRocket, I mean, it's living up to its last name for sure. It's been a bit of a rocket ship. We serve about, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 customers already. And we just started the business about 3 or 4 months ago. And so it's a lot of fun. I feel like I've kind of fallen into my ikigai a little bit. Like, I feel like, I do a tremendous amount of work. I'm on 20 calls a day, but it just feels like effortless. It feels like, they say first you get paid for what you do, then you get paid
Yeah.
for what you know, and then you get paid for who you are, right? And so
Mm,
I feel like I'm starting to find that third phase a bit more in my career, where I'm like attracting the right types of people into my life, the right types of projects, the right types of relationships, where I actually feel like I have value. Yeah, and it's nice, in a world where most people wake up and they're just like getting through their day and they barely, care about what they work on. It's nice to be around people that are like truly passionate.
yeah.
This morning I interviewed somebody on my show where they're building a company that helps prevent school shootings, or doesn't
Mm,
prevent, but like how it's like a early detection,
mitigate it.
mitigate, just like a way to like quickly alert, the police that, hey, something is going down, so that they can act quicker. And it's like, you know, so entrepreneurship,
Yeah, good.
it's a lot of fun, man. It's like you get to meet like super courageous people, smart people, and that's kind of my Venn diagram for like my favorite types of people.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I have to
We
say,
got
like,
some background noise. Got little
oh no,
guy
no,
over here.
no, no worries. Yeah, I have to say, like, you are much more advanced in your entrepreneur journey, right? So I have to say, like, I've been learning a lot from you, right? And like, you've been like showing and being really generous with how you show where the lumps are in operating a business, and where to like where to do focus and highlight things instead, right? So I want to say like a really big thanks to you, and people should like reach out to you and look into RaasRocket, because you guys are helping a lot of clients with their journeys and their entrepreneurship journeys too. So at that, Sunny, could you leave us off with like a call to action? Where can folks find you and RaasRocket and Unocoin too?
Unocoin.com. RaasRocket is RAAS rocket.com. My own website is sunnyray.com, which is just my name. Call to action. I mean, that's probably what you meant by call to action, but my like real call to action um, would be to tell people to wake up earlier. Maybe
Yep.
that's the one that I would have told my son, the Sonny from 10 or 20 years ago, is like waking up early is quite possibly the biggest hack ever. So
Yeah.
wake up early, I don't know, work out,
Yep.
meditate, journal, do whatever you need to do, but like just get yourself to feel good. And feeling good is one of my like top priorities, because when you feel good, you do good, you attract good. Like you move from this place of like desperation and like wanting things and chasing things to like just attracting. And so yeah, wake up early. Visualization is something that I tinker with a lot more recently as well, and just like forming habits. Like being very aware of like what kind of habits you cultivate, right? And so yeah, man. So Ed, you've been a dear friend for a very long time, and I've learned a lot from you as well. Figma design. I mean, you're the best when it comes to stuff like that. So I appreciate your friendship, and and thanks for having me on your show.
All right. Thanks for coming by. All right, we're gonna end the live stream in a few seconds, and there we go. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody.